Hello there, Woven Web listeners. Today we have a story, I Sold My Virginity to a Wealthy Businessman. And this one has a twist at the end. She writes, my heart was racing, my knees even trembled a bit, and I remember those feelings nearly a decade later. The nervous anticipation I felt as I walked across the hotel lobby and stood waiting for the elevator. I was wearing a little black dress, heels, and new lingerie. Everything about the outfit was out of character for me. I was 19 years old at the time and fit from years spent playing soccer and basketball. Now, nobody would ever confuse me for a model, but I'm not unattractive. I was a part-time student working my way through college, and I had a job working at an upscale hotel. The goal was to work my way up to an assistant manager position to get some of that coveted leadership experience on my resume. The hotel was on a golf course and catered primarily to executive business travelers. It was not the kind of place your company put you when you were on the road. It's where the CEO of your company stayed. We didn't have a uniform, but we were required to dress professionally. That typically meant a blouse and a skirt for me. The clientele often liked to get flirty with the help, and it was our job to go the extra mile. We flirted back. We smiled, and we laughed at every unoriginal bad joke. Not just the women. The guys would kiss ass, too. That kind of thing could lead to unwanted advances. Men often wanted to buy me a drink, and the more confident ones would suggest more, like having a drink in their room, but I always declined until the day I didn't. Now this man, he was a regular client, and he had a European accent. I don't know what he did, but he was at the hotel every other month. He always booked a suite, and the starting price back then was $1,200 a night. That night, he got in around 10 o'clock, and he was obviously stressed and complained about his day of travel. I was alone at the front desk, and he mentioned he could use some company to help him relax. I politely declined. Then he offered me $500. The money was tempting. I was on a partial scholarship for sports and athletics, but it wasn't enough. I was struggling to pay my bills and tuition, but $500 wasn't going to make me sleep with a stranger. I told him there were clubs nearby where that offer would work. I'm not looking for professionals, he said. I declined again. He opened his wallet and started counting out the bills. He had over 600 and a handful of euros. He offered it all, and I turned him down for a third time. I can't sell my virginity for $600, I finally blurted out. I was sure he'd stop after that and be a little more respectful. But the opposite happened. He offered me $2,500, then $3,000, then $5,000 for a full night. I was overwhelmed. I told him I needed to think about it, but I also just wanted him to go away. I was on the desk again the next night, and that night I accepted his offer. He must have expected it. He slipped me an envelope with the money and told me to dress well and buy new lingerie. The next day, I bought a dress on sale at Nordstrom Rack and lingerie at a boutique store. He got a room downtown in a different hotel. Every nerve tingled as I walked in the lobby that night. When I got to his room, he sat by the window after he'd let me in. Undress, he commanded. There were no niceties or icebreakers. As he sat in the chair, he looked at me and said, "It's special to be a woman's first, one she'll never forget." He kept talking for what seemed like an eternity. I don't know if he wanted to savor the moment or he was just full of himself and thought he was impressing me. I just wanted to get it over with. The actual act wasn't essential. He kept telling me how I'd remember that night for the rest of my life. Obviously, he wasn't wrong, at least not so far. He slept soundly after, and I tossed and turned most of the night. In the morning, he ordered room service, but I didn't have an appetite. Dining with him wasn't part of the agreement. The money didn't last long, of course. At that age, it seemed like a lot, but it went quick. In retrospect, $5,000 doesn't seem like enough money to sell your virginity to a man who obviously got off on corrupting people with his wealth. But I wasn't really a virgin anyway. I only said it because I thought he'd leave me alone. Who knew it would only lead him to upping the offer?